Hello faves, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Adenike of Nikki's Homemade here again, and of course I'm back with another easy and accessible homemade recipe. Our recipe for today is meat pies. This is one of my favorite pastries of all time and I can eat this at any time of the day. Before we proceed, please do also subscribe to my channel. You'll be helping me a great deal if you do so. Let's get right into it. In a bowl, we're going to measure 4 cups of flour. So I'm going to be mentioning my ingredients and I'm also going to be mentioning the measurement I used. So these 4 cups of flour made me about 12 meat pies. I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Then I'm just going to mix this together to combine all the ingredients I've put in. Now I'm going to go in with my butter. I'm using 210 grams of butter. This butter is unsalted. So you have to make sure that if you're using unsalted butter, you can add a little more salt. But if you're using salted butter, you need to be careful with the salt. Now I'm going to go in with my hands. This is where it gets a little messy. With my fingers, I'm going to comb through my flour and my butter together and I'm going to make sure it's like a crust. Now I'm going to make a hole in the middle and go in with my eggs. This is 3 small eggs that I'm using. Now it gets messier. I'm going to use my fingers again to mix this thoroughly. I have to make sure that the eggs and the ingredients in the flour mix together well. So take your time to use your fingers to comb through and mix properly. Now I'm going to go in with some water. I'm going to be using 2 cups of this water. So the measurement of that cup is I think 3/4. So let's say we have 6/4 cups of water. And now I'm going to knead. This kneading process is quite tedious because then my hands were aching me badly. But it's a very important step if you want to have a nice dough. So you're going to knead this properly with your hands. If you have a machine, a kneading machine, that would be nice. You can use that. But since I do not have a kneading machine at home, I'm going to be kneading with my hands. It took me about 20 to 30 minutes to properly knead this dough before I set it aside. As you can see, as I knead, it looks smoother. It's getting smoother and smoother as you knead. So you're using your knuckles to knead, your knuckles and your fingers. Now I'm done kneading. I'm going to cover this and set it in the fridge. If you do not want to put yours in the fridge, just set in a cool, dry place. To my fillings, in a pan, we're going to add some oil. I've used that oil to fry some chicken like a few hours before I made this meat pie, so I'm just reusing the oil. It just had a nice flavor to it, so I liked that. And now I'm just going to go in with some onions, some chopped onions and some chopped habanero pepper. I'm going to mix this together and allow this to fry before I go in with my minced beef. So I'm using 450 grams of minced beef and I'm just going to break this nicely into the pot because you do not want lumps of beef in your meat pie. It just kills the vibe. I'm going to make sure that I mix this thoroughly before I go in with my carrots and my chopped potatoes. So these are Irish potatoes, just to be clear. And then I'm going to mix all this together. I do not have a measurement for the potatoes because potatoes comes in different sizes. Now seasoning. When you're seasoning, you have to be really careful because it can get too salty. I'm using 2 bouillon cubes, and that's the beef bouillon cubes, some curry and some thyme, and just a little salt. Remember, there is some salt in the dough. That counts for how salty your meat pie is going to get. So you have to be careful with seasoning. I'm going to mix this thoroughly to make sure everything combines together, and then I'm just going to level it before adding some water. I'm going to measure 2 cups of water. This same cup, it's about 3/4 of a whole cup. So measure 2 cups of water, and then I allowed this to cook. I cooked for about 15 minutes, and then I used a whisk to just match the potatoes a little because I didn't want to use cornstarch. I just wanted the potato to thicken itself. So I mashed a little before I went ahead to mix, but I forgot to record that part. And then I just mix this nicely, reduce the heat, and then set it aside. Now back to our dough. As you can see, it looks well rested, if I must say so. We're just going to knead this nicely in the bowl before we bring it out. So I'm going to be adding some flour on the surface where I'm going to be cutting and kneading, just so that it doesn't stick to the surface. And then I'm just going to knead again, not really with a lot of strength. And then I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces. You can cut into 6, you can cut into 8. I just prefer to cut into 4 because it was easier for me. And then I will now just take each piece and then go ahead to knead again. This time around it's just gentle kneading, and then I'm going to roll out with my rolling pin. If your rolling pin sticks to your dough, all you need to do is add some flour to it or on it, and then you continue the process. You have to roll out until you have a thin sheet, not so thin and not so thick, but then you keep filling it and you keep turning your dough as you roll out. So if you roll to one side, you pick it up and you turn it to the other side and roll it out again. You repeat this process until you have all the sides perfectly rolled and all the sides at the same texture or thickness. Because one thing you don't want to have is one side very thick and the other side too thin. So you have to make sure you're checking as you're rolling out. I'm using my fingers to feel the thickness as I roll. Once we are done rolling out, we'll find a round item in the kitchen. You can use a saucer or any round item just to cut out a round shape. After this is done, you fill your dough. 1 spoon is usually enough. 1 full spoon, that's 1 full kitchen spoon, is usually enough to fill the dough. And then you just use your hand or your fingers to seal the ends before you go ahead and use a fork to seal the ends. If you have a meat pie maker or a meat pie sealer, all you just need to do is to put your dough on top of it, fill it, and then cover it, and it seals it. But this is a manual process, and then I'm just going to show you the manual process of getting your meat pies done. So you have no excuse not to make meat pies if you feel like eating meat pies. Everything you need is in your kitchen. So once again, I cut out my round shape. I fill my dough with the fillings, and then I use a fork to seal the sides. As easy as that. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's food. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look perfect. As long as you have that. I'm going to show you one more time how I achieved this. Fill my round shaped dough. Cover. Use my fingers to seal the ends by just pressing it together. And then use a fork to further seal it. As easy as that. So you repeat this process until you've done all your dough. The ones you cut out are not useless. See how I did this? I just picked the ones I cut out and then I kneaded them together in my hands before I went ahead to roll them out again. As easy as that. So once again, knead, roll out, cut into your round shape, and then add your fillings. Fold, seal with your fingers, and then use a fork to further seal it. Now we're done with all our dough. We're just going to use an egg to glaze the meat pies on the pan as I'm doing. So just get a brush and then break an egg into a cup or a plate and then use the brush to glaze all the meat pie with the egg. The main process or the main reason we do this is just to give it a beautiful finish, because I don't think it has any effect if you do not put your egg on top of it like this. It's still nice, it still comes out well, but as you can see, it makes it look more beautiful and more presentable doing this. So it gives it this crunchy look, if I must say. Now I'm going to just use a fork to poke holes into the meat pies. This will allow the heat from the oven get into it very well. We want our meat pie to bake nicely. Now we're going to go ahead and transfer this in the oven. I'm baking at 200 degrees for 1 hour. 1 hour after my meat pies were ready, just look at this deliciousness. You can see the effect of the egg we glazed it with, right? It made it look so nice. And my meat pie was ready. I went ahead to just cut it into two just to show you what it looks like inside. So this is perfect. It was so delicious. This is where I get to say thank you very much for watching my video to the end. Please leave me a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe if you enjoyed watching this. Stay blessed and see you in my next video. Bye!